Hari Om, Jai Shri Krishna. Lord Krishna is one of the avatars of Bhagavan Vishnu, and Lord Krishna is one of the most adorable avatars, especially when he was a little child. When he was a baby, everybody loved him, and he was beautiful, and Yasodamaya used to dress him up and look after him. And she used to put a little black dot on his face so that people would not put eyes on her little boy. And one thing different about all the other boys and all the other children and all the other babies, Lord Krishna, Bhagavan Krishna, was so naughty. He was mischievous. And everybody loved. He was so beautiful and so mischievous. And they wanted him to be mischievous. And we find that when he grew up, as he was growing up, he wanted to go with his brother. His big brother was Balram, and Balram was already taking out the cows and the calves out during the morning and grazing in the forest, and at sunset they would come back. And Krishna Bhagavan also wanted to do that, but he was much too small to go. So he used to cry after they had left to go to the forest. And he used to cry at home. And then one day, Yasodamaya said, "It is all right. You go with your brother." And she told Balram, "Please, you look after him." And she sent them food and she sent them water. And she said, "Look after him." And Krishna Bhagavan used to go to the forest for 2 or 3 days. He went. And then he came back one evening and he said to Yashodamaya, "I too want to look after the calves. Let me take and have my own cows, and I can graze them." And we find that Yashodamaya said, "Yes, you should be responsible." He was now about 4 years old. And he goes into the forest. He has only two calves, and they're young calves. And he takes them and he goes into the forest and he spends the day there. And we find that Yashodamaya was so worried that a whole day from sunrise to sunset is a long time for a young child of 4 years old to be in the forest. But Balram was there, and Balram would look after him. She knew that. And Balram loved Krishna Bhagavan, and Krishna Bhagavan loved Balram. But there was another boy from the village, and his name was Madhumangal. He was exactly the same age as Krishna Bhagavan. But he came from a very, very poor family. He barely had anything to take with him as lunch. But his mum used to send him food every day, because he also, once Krishna Bhagavan started, he also would go into the forest with his older brother and take the 2 cows. They only had 2 cows. But they all used to go together in the forest to graze the cows. And we find that Krishna Bhagavan and Madhumangal were the best friends. They loved each other. And we find that Krishna Bhagavan in his whole avatar had 2 best friends. When he was a little boy of 4 years old, he had Madhumangal. And you know that when he was an older man, when he was 16 and 18, he had another friend called Sudama. Sudama he met in Gurukula. And we know that Krishna Bhagavan had only gone to Gurukula when he was 16 years of age. So he met an older friend, 16 years as well, Sudama. But this young 4-year-old friend of his was the best friend he had. Madhumangal loved Krishna Bhagavan. He knew Krishna Bhagavan was Bhagavan himself. And one very, very hot day, they had gone out to graze the calves. And Madhumangal used to help Krishna Bhagwan because there were two calves. So Madhumangal used to look after one and Krishna Bhagwan used to look after the other while they were in the forest, and they used to watch them and sit by them and sometimes to stroke them. And it got very hot at midday. About midday, it was so hot. And Balaram said, all the cows are now grazing and they're eating quietly and the calves are resting. Let us go into the Yamuna and play in the water. It is so hot. So they went into the water and splashed in the water and cooled themselves down. After a while, about 40 minutes, they were so tired and they were hungry and they wanted to go and have their food, but they were tired of the water now and they had cooled down well enough. So they came out the water, put on their clothes, and they went back and checked on the cows and the calves, and everything was fine. And then they sat down and opened their lunch, and slowly they were eating their food. They were very hungry. But there was one little trick Krishna Bhagwan had. And Krishna Bhagwan, we see, is Bhagwan himself. He would go quietly when nobody was looking, and he would take the food, the lunch that Madhumangal had. And he used to eat Madhumangal's food. And we find that when Madhumangal wanted to eat, there was no food. So Krishna Bhagwan used to give him his food. And Yashoda Maya used to make the best food. The best food for Krishna. She loved Krishna Bhagwan. For her Krishna, she made the best, and there were butter balls, and there were sugared butter balls, and there were curd, and there were so many things. He loved it. And Krishna Bhagwan's ploy was to give the butter balls and the curd to Madhumangal because he didn't bring anything. His was just a plain rice that was just boiled and a little butter was added, and that's about it. So Krishna Bhagwan used to eat that and give the best food to Madhumangal. Madhumangal knew that what Krishna was up to, but he said, this is prasad from Bhagwan, so I will eat it quietly. So after a time, what Madhumangal used to do, he used to take his lunch and keep it in his pocket. He used to tie it on the side of his waist so that Krishna Bhagwan couldn't get it. And then the pattern came where they used to share their food. So half of Madhumangal's food Krishna Bhagwan used to eat, and half of Krishna Bhagwan's food Madhumangal used to eat. So they both were enjoying it. And you know what happens when you have a big, full lunch? You just want to rest after a while. So all the boys, all the gopikas had finished their lunch, and they were sitting under the tree, and they had their water, and they were falling asleep under the tree. All the cows were grazing, and the calves were sleeping near them. So it was quiet. And within 5 minutes, everybody was asleep. And when they were asleep, for about half an hour, Krishna Bhagwan got up and saw everybody is sleeping and he's the only one awake. He saw Madhumangal had his head on Krishna Bhagwan's thighs, on his knees. So Krishna Bhagwan couldn't go far. So Krishna Bhagwan sat up and he took his flute and he started to play a very soft music while the boys were sleeping. And when he played the flute, slowly all the boys opened their eyes and they were looking at Krishna Bhagwan. What beautiful music! What soothing music! What is more beautiful than to get up, listening to the music of the Lord played on a flute. And all the boys were just lying down, didn't move much, just listening to the music. Not far away, there was a group of peacocks. There must have been about 2 or 3 peacocks, and the rest were peons. These are the female peacocks, and there must have been about 10 of them altogether. And they heard the music from the flute. And the peacocks, all 3 of them, the peacocks are the ones with the beautiful plumage, beautiful feathers. And the 3 male got up, and listening to the music, they started to dance. And you know, peacocks have such a beautiful dance and beautiful colors. And we find that all the boys, all the gopikas, were lying on the ground and watching the peacocks dance. All 3 of them were dancing. And you know, the peahens, the females, don't normally dance. But this time, with Bhagwan's music, they were dancing as well. They couldn't sit still. It was so enchanting. And the peacocks were dancing, and Krishna Bhagwan was playing, and everybody was watching the show, while the 3 peacocks were dancing, and the peahens were around, all 7 of them also dancing. It was such a beautiful sight. It is said, after a while, Krishna Bhagwan had finished play, and the peacocks all stopped. And then the leader of the peacocks, one of the 3 males, came all the way to Krishna Bhagwan because he was a 4-year-old little boy. And the peacock came, and right in front of Krishna Bhagwan, he opened his feathers. And a beautiful picture was there, and Krishna Bhagwan could see it. And you won't believe what happened. The peacock turned his head, and he pulled the most beautiful peacock feather out. And he put it on Krishna Bhagwan's feet to say, thank you. Thank you so much for making us so happy with that beautiful music. And all of us were gone to Vaikuntha, gone to heaven while we were dancing. And you took us there. You must be Bhagwan. In gratitude, I give you this feather. And Krishna Bhagwan picked up the feather, and it looked so beautiful. And he took the feather and he stuck it on his hair. And it looked so beautiful. And the other 2 peacocks came, and they also brought their peacock feather, and they also gave it to Krishna Bhagwan. Krishna Bhagwan took it. So he had 1 peacock feather on his hair, and 2 he carried, together with the flute. And when he went home, he gave it to Maya, and Maya said, this looks so beautiful on your hair. And these other 2, I will keep it and I will put it on your hair every day. And you should wear this. But Krishna Bhagwan knew that he's always going to wear the peacock feather, even when he was a grown man. And even when he goes to war with Arjuna. And even when he's going to be the king. Wherever he is going to be, he's going to wear the peacock feather. Why? Because it was so filled with love. It was given to him with love. It was given to him with gratitude. And nobody can do anything with something that is filled with love, filled with gratitude, but to take it and hug it and keep it with you all the time. And that is what Krishna Bhagwan did. So, we find Krishna Bhagwan, whenever you look at him, even as a little boy, even as a grown man, even as a young man, wherever, even in war, even dressed like the king, he is dressed with the peacock feather, because that is full of love and full of gratitude. Therefore, we should never ever forget when somebody does something for us to say thank you and show gratitude. We should show gratitude to our parents, we should show gratitude to our family and to our community and anybody that does anything for you. You should show gratitude. And that is the lesson about the peacock feather. So this is a beautiful one and you should practice it. You're not going to wear a peacock feather, but you're going to say thank you. Thank you is a magic word. But when you say thank you, don't forget to smile, because in your words you have to fill it with love, because that is what the peacock feather is. Filled with love and a great big thank you, and you will look beautiful like Krishna Bhagwan. We learned about the peacock feather that Krishna Bhagwan wears. How beautiful it is, and we know it has gratitude and it has love attached to it. But there's a second part to the story, and the second part of the story comes from Lord Rama. Rama and Sita and Lakshmana are from the Ramayana. And that story is also about the peacock feather. One day, when Rama and Sita and Lakshmana were in the forest, they were staying for 14 years in the forest. And when they were staying in the forest, they were traveling and going to their house in Chitrakoot. They had a little hut over there, and they were going to build this hut. Lakshman Bhaiya was going to build the hut for them, made out of grass and poles. And when they were walking, and Sita Maya said, "Please, I am so thirsty, please can you get me some water?" It was a very hot day. And Lakshman Bhaiya said, I will go and get the water. And he was looking for water, and he went away, and slowly on the same path, Ramji and Sita Maya was walking. And as they were walking, the sun was blazing down on them. And half an hour later, Lakshman Bhaiya had not come yet. So there was no water. And Sita Maya said, "I am so thirsty. I need a little bit of water." And Ramji said, "You walk a little bit until we go under the tree, and you can sit in the tree, under the tree, in the shade of the tree. And we will wait for Lakshman Bhaiya to bring the water." And another half an hour went. They were sitting under the tree in the shade. It was a little bit cooler. But Maya was so thirsty. She was having a problem to keep sitting up straight. And then Ramji said, "Sita Maya, you sit here and I will also go and see where I can find some water for you, even a little bit of water." And then he left her in the shade. Lakshman Bhaiya had gone and not come back because he didn't find any water yet. And Ramji now is going to go and find water. And Ramji is walking in the forest all over looking for this water. And there was no water at all in that area. And Ramji was also starting to be thirsty. And he was walking and walking and walking in the sun. And all of a sudden, he heard a peacock call. And he said, if there are birds here, and if there's a peacock, there must be water. So he went to look for the peacock. And as he looked through the bush and all the trees, he saw on the far side there was a peacock laying down, but it was calling to its friends. He was sitting all alone. And Ramji went and he said, "Mr. Peacock, I am looking for some water. Sita Maya needs water. I've been looking already for half an hour and I cannot find the water. My brother Lakshman Bhaiya has gone out looking for water as well and we cannot find. Please show us where the water is." And the peacock said, "Yes, Ramji, I will tell you where the water is. Just follow me." And the peacock got up, spread its wings and started to fly, because that's how peacocks can go fast. And Ramji was running on the path behind the peacock. And we find that the peacock was going too fast and Ramji couldn't keep up with the peacock. The peacock would fly and then Ramji would see in which direction and then he used to run. Don't forget, Ramji was thirsty also. And then you cannot function so well. What had happened is the peacock had gone out of sight now and Ramji didn't know where it was. And when the peacock looked back, he saw there was no Ramji. So he flew back and he said, "Ramji, you are too slow. You need to come fast." And Ramji said, "I am too tired. I am also thirsty, so please can I go slow?" And the peacock said, "But the water is far away. You need to get some water and we should bring some water for Sita Maya and for Lakshman Bhaiya if he doesn't find. So we have to go quickly." So what the peacock did, said, "You cannot come fast and you cannot run behind me fast enough. So all along the path, going towards the pond, I am going to drop one of my peacock feathers all the way, and then you will know the direction, the way to go to the pond to get the water." And these beautiful peacock feathers were on the path. One by one, the peacock pulled it off his body and threw it on the floor, and Ramji would see it and he would know which side to go, which direction to go. And after quite a while, he got to the pond and he was so happy. Ramji just dived into the water and he cooled himself out and he drank some water and he put some leaves together and he gathered some water to take back for Sita Maya. And he was going to take the second leaves to make a little vessel to take the water back. And then he saw the most strangest sight. It just didn't look right. What was that? It was this peacock. There was a peacock with no feathers at all, not a single feather. The peacock had pulled all his feathers out, just so Ramji could get to the water. Ramji saw that, and he went and he picked up the peacock. Nothing, no feathers were there. And you know how beautiful peacocks are? And there is a peacock with no feathers. He had pulled all the feathers out so Ramji could have the direction, the way to the water. And you know, if birds don't have feathers, they cannot keep warm or they cannot keep cool. The feathers keep them cool, they keep the body temperature. So this peacock was dying slowly. And Ramji picked up this peacock with no feathers and said to the peacock, "Oh, Mr. Peacock, you are so great. You did such a great sacrifice for me. You pulled all your feathers off so I could get some water. What a great sacrifice is that. And Sita Maya will also get water." And the peacock said, with his last breath, he said to Ramji, Bhagwan, this is my seva to you. We all love you. And I have taken this body as a peacock so that I could serve you. No other feathers would have been good enough for the Lord to follow. So I've given all of it, and now I am ready to go to heaven. So, if you put me down, I will ascend and go to Vaikuntha. And the peacock, Ramji, put him down, and the Atma went to Vaikuntha. Ramji dug a little hole next door to the river on the side of the bank, and he put the body of the peacock inside and covered it up. And on the top, he put one peacock feather, the most beautiful peacock feather. And then he took one feather and he stuck it on the side of his dhoti, and he carried the two little vessels that he made out of leaves with water, and he went back to Sita. And he gave one to Sita, and she drank the water, and she felt so good. And she felt really quenched her thirst. And Lakshmana came after a few minutes, but he didn't find any water. And Ramji gave him the other vessel, and he drank the water. And then Ramji said, the two of you, we are not going to go to Chitrakuta now, but we are going to go to the well. So the three of them were walking to the well. And Lakshman Bhaiya, see what happens when they walk in the forest. Ramji walks first, Sita Maya walks in between, and at the back, Lakshman Bhaiya walks. And from the back, and Sita Maya also, she said, Bhagwan, my Lord, why have you got a feather in your dhoti? And Ramji said, don't worry, I will tell you in a moment. And when they got to the well, he said, this is the story of the peacock. And this is where I had done the puja for the peacock, and I buried the peacock here. And one feather is there to say, this is the spot the peacock was buried. And the reason I put that, because this is the greatest seva a sevak can do for Bhagwan, for the Lord. And he has given his life for me. And I should give something in return. And Maya said, what can we give him? He's already gone to Vaikuntha. He is in heaven. There is nothing you can give. And Ramji said, when I come back next time, in the next avatar, I will always remember the peacock, this peacock. And I, in that avatar, will wear the peacock feather from the time I'm a little boy, all the time till I give up that avatar. When I give up my body, I will be still wearing the peacock feather. That is the reason why when Krishna Bhagwan came, because Krishna Bhagwan comes after Ramji. It's an avatar after Ramji. Therefore, Krishna Bhagwan has the peacock feather. And that peacock feather now is saying that Krishna Bhagwan wears. It's about love. It's about gratitude. And now it's about seva. Selfless seva to the Lord. Selfless service to my parents. Selfless service and love and gratitude to everybody around me. I am who I am because of everybody around me, including my parents. So therefore, I should be so grateful and show love and respect all the time. So this, when you see a picture, when you see a murti, and when you see Krishna Bhagwan, you will see the peacock feather. And don't forget, that's what it reminds you of. Jai Shri Krishna, Jai Shri Ram, Jai Shri Krishna.
But the moment Krishna entered inside, he could hear the screams, the shout as rumblings from the tummy of Aghasur. And they were saying, Krishna, Krishna, it's dark here. Krishna, Krishna, save us. Krishna, Krishna, save us. Krishna, Krishna, save us. But when Krishna is near, what is there to fear? But they were so happy. Krishna Kanhaiya Lal Ki Jai! Krishna Kanhaiya Lal Ki Jai! They were singing and they were playing their Krishna, Krishna.